We're here. We are live.
Good evening, fellow ramblers, and welcome back to another Ramblestream. This is number 75. 75 episodes
75.
under our belt.
That's 3/4 of 100 for all you mathematicians out there.
That is. That's also more than a year of weekly episodes. Anyway, let me put my technological guidance on my here. Plug myself in. Yeah, welcome, and I think we got another good program lined up for you all this evening. Relatively stress-free. We've started doing a lot of preparation on Fridays for this.
Yes.
As opposed to my old ways when I was like half an hour before the stream.
What
are we going to talk about?
We'll throw together something.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get started with introductions. I'll get started, and as you all can probably already tell from the comments, we have a format. If you're new to the Ramblestream, we welcome you to sing out in the comments and tell us where you're viewing from, what you ramble with, what its name, what's your vehicle of choices, if you've named it, unlike me, and what you're sipping on this evening. So my name is Richard Horsham, founder and designer here at Janus Motorcycles, and we are broadcasting from the fabrication shop, which we affectionately call TT, for a long. What was that?
I was this close to spilling my beer.
Oh, okay, good.
This close.
And I ramble with the KLR 650 and a Janus Halcyon 250, number 68. Yeah, and if you have a Janus, tell us what the model and the serial number is. That's always important. And this evening, I've been spoiled. My wife has got me Spindrift. If you're familiar with seltzer waters, this is like the Johnny Walker, like
the luxury.
I don't know what the black. I don't know what the.
I don't know.
This is the single malt of sparkling water, Spindrift, in blood orange tangerine flavor.
Now,
cheers to all of you.
Richard, if you just want to keep talking, we're getting a lot of comments about low audio. I've got you great in my ears.
Yeah, it sounds good here.
But I am worried.
Boost up my voice.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We're just gonna tap it up here. Keep talking, Richard. See if that does.
Much more control over the audio now.
Yes.
So, keep on telling us if the volume is satisfactory.
Yeah, nothing should have changed, so that's what I'm a little concerned about.
We'll keep rolling, and if any more comments come through, we'll continue to make adjustments.
As we need.
Jansen, go ahead.
My name is Jansen, also here in Goshen, Indiana, rambling soon to be on Griffin 450 number 5. Soon, yet to be named. But it will be named eventually. And I'm sipping on, same thing as last week, a nice Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA. Just delicious, delicious stuff.
Speaking of names, my brother, who's a wooden boat builder, is always looking at plans of boats and just perusing old books on them. And he sent me today a drawing, just kind of a lofting diagram, lofting diagram of I forget what era boat it was, a wooden boat, and he's like, "How's this for a name?" The name of the boat was a Spankadillo.
A spank?
No, it's not. That's not the model. That's the name of the boat. Spanky was what they called it for short.
Wow, that's something else.
I thought that was a good one.
Richard, we got some weird audio things happening right now. I don't know. Let me just go ahead and do one of these. Richard's even more calm than normal. I like to whisper too. Oh!
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, go ahead and keep talking, Richard. I'm gonna see if we can figure this out. Well, if you wanna go ahead and read your poem,
okay,
then I think that'll be a perfect test.
That'll be great. So yeah, we'll go ahead and read our poem for the evening, which is going to be. So I remember what I picked here. Walter de la Mare. This is a poem by the great poet and author, children's author. Well, he wrote lots of things, but I'm familiar with him mainly from his children's literature, but this poem is called The Miracle. Who beckons the green ivy up its solitary tower of stone? What spirit lures the bindweed's cup unfaltering on? Calls even the starry lichen to climb by age-long inchless endless time? Who bids the hollyhock uplift her rod and fast-sealed buds on high, fling wide her petals, silent, swift, lovely to the sky? Since as she kindled, so she will fade, flower above flower in squalor laid. Ever the heavy billow rears all its sea length in green, hushed wall, but totters as the shore it nears, foams to its fall. Where was its mark? On what vain quest rose that great water from its rest? So creeps ambition on, so climb man's vaunting thoughts. He, set on high, forgets his birth, small space, brief time that he shall die, dreams blindly in his stagnant air, consumes his strength, strips himself bare, rejects delight, ease, pleasure, hope, seeking in vain, but seeking yet, past earthly promise, earthly scope, on one aim set, as if, like Chaucer's child, he thought, all but O Alma not. Switch mic.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. Let's see if this works. Maybe it's just Richard's nice sauntery voice.
Testing. It's coming through mine. I can hear just fine.
I know. Yeah, we can hear it just fine on our side. I'm just wondering what on earth is going on.
Just when we think we've got it all figured out.
It wouldn't be the Ramblestream
Without
some technical difficulties. I think it sounds exactly the same. Huh? Like his voice sounds quiet as well when he's using my mic? That's
Haywood's out.
See ya, Keith. You just can't hang with the technical difficulties. Sorry, man. What?
Yes?
It sounds exactly
When
the
you
same.
Switched mics, Richard's voice was low. Ahoy there. Brosif's here. Jansen, try speaking with your mic in front of you.
This is going to be a magic trick because if this works, it's not going to make any sense.
I think they're just saying that your volume is just too high.
Hello.
And my voice is too low.
It's too low. Let me see
I
it.
am, like smack dab in the microphone.
Let me dig in here. Oh,
we figured it out.
hey.
I know it.
Don't worry about us, y'all.
All right. That should be better now.
That should be so much better.
Quiet as a Vespa GTS. All right. How about now?
You know, it would help if we used the nice equipment. If we used the nice equipment that we were given,
Yeah.
it should sound a lot better.
We've got it figured out.
We've got it.
That was a mistake on Jansen's end, just so you know.
No,
That was not me.
No, it wasn't.
All right. Okay.
Richard, thank you for the poem. We've got some bikes to feature this week. We have 4 of them brought to you by Mitch, our beloved salesman. Here they are. This is, let's see. This is John. Nope.
Bring up
This
some
is-
pictures here. There we go.
This is Donald.
Donald?
And this bike is going to Alaska.
Alaska.
It is Halcyon 250 1174.
And this is a lovely little 250 in Halcyon, that is, in vintage red with gold pinstripe.
I'm
got-
getting absolutely ripped to pieces in the comments.
Well, yeah. Anyway, we're gonna keep moving. We're not gonna dwell on this. And it also, this is not a frame. This is a classic with the black chassis and redwood saddle. Do we have any other pictures?
Yeah, we should.
Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Wow.
So that's the redwood wide line seat, polished engine fins, And that's about all I can see right so far. Single pinstripe, a classic
Gary asks,
classic Janus.
is there a Janus in all 50 states?
There is a Janus in all 50 states. I want to say we're probably pretty close to having multiple Jani in every state at this point. I know there's many. There's not many. I don't know if many is the right word to say. There are multiple Janus in Alaska, which should tell you about. I think at one point the one state we didn't have a bike in was West Virginia. But I know now
Really?
that we have several in West Virginia.
Huh.
So, yeah.
All right, that's
Look at that.
bike
Look at
number
that.
one
That's
here.
a classic. And just a very simple. That's the original Janus logo on the tank.
That is a good looking bike.
All right, we got another one. Partial build here on the stand.
This is Eric. Eric is currently his bike is currently being built. It's Halcyon 250 number 1164, and it's going to Indiana. Staying. I'm
Long
not
way away.
entirely sure what it actually is doing, but
All right. Okay, so all I can say so far is that this bike has black leather.
it's got black
and
leather.
and it has
everybody.
the Sergeant seat. It does not have polished ends and fins. And
Let's see if we can get to.
there's some color. There we go. It looks like our pewter.
I like
Pewter
that color.
primary color. There's some.
Yep.
Oh no. Okay. So this bike, I've actually seen this one more complete than these photographs a little more recently. This is a really interesting one because this has the fender skirts on it, but instead of going with the like dark primary color with a lighter skirt, he's gone with black fender skirts with the pewter primary.
It looks
Very interesting
pretty
color
sharp.
scheme. And then he's pulled through the pewter primary in the pinstripe.
Yeah, I see
It
that.
only shows up on the fender skirts. These fender skirts are just opening up the possibilities we've never seen before. Look at
That's
that.
really cool.
Isn't that a great look?
Hydrochloride says, I see 337 in the background. He saw it.
Oh yeah. So this one a little different. It has the 450 style feather logo. Again, single pinstripe in black. So interesting. See what he's done here is he's got two different pinstripe colors, but only a single pinstripe. So the skirts have charcoal or pewter, but the rest of the bike has the contrasting black.
That's pretty sharp.
So this is a new one. We have not seen something like this. It's a fun bike.
That is really, really sharp. All right. Next, we've got Richard, who's Halcyon 450 number 365. Didn't see where it was going.
Okay.
Wasn't able to pull that off the list, but
This one is obviously we got a frame match. So this actually looks like it's indie racing green, I think.
As
Sometimes it's hard
opposed
to
to?
tell from the photographs, as opposed to British racing green. So we have
Okay.
the British racing green was our original green. It's a little more blue. Yeah, this is definitely indie racing green. So this, oddly, indie racing green is actually more like a traditional British racing green, and that goes back to the fact that the first time the original racing green that we use was our first attempt at it. So if you can follow along, we kind of perfected
yeah,
it.
you got it. You dialed it in.
But it's actually a really beautiful color, and it's actually the same color as our the Paragon, the first bike we ever built.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a really good
So
looking
this is
color.
a frame match, which means that all the chassis components are the same color as the bike. Saddle brown seat. This is, of course, the Sergeant seat on the 450. Some of the parts, as you can see on here, are not frame matched on all. If you get frame matching, things like your oil tank and some brackets are going to be remain black as original. But the first bike that we I don't know if he's in the chat today. First bike with this color was Dave Bowen, and he sent pictures. What are you laughing about now? Show the bike. And he sent photographs of the bike up in the mountains out where he lives on the West Coast, and just probably still one of my favorite photographs of a Janus. And so I really love this color scheme.
Yeah, this.
Look at that.
That's super sharp. Can you guys see? You guys can see it now, right? What a great looking motorcycle.
Two pinstripe colors, black and gold. This is a classy looking bike. Look at that. Stop razzing.
I'm just
Jansen.
kidding. It's so funny to me. Ooh,
Very
and the
good.
light too. Shoot.
Rear rack.
Nice.
I like seeing all the pictures. I like it when you add all the more than just one shot. It's coming together. Oh, there we go. Okay, so he's chosen black for the graphics on the airbox. We got some details of how the airbox
Wow,
works.
looky there.
There it is. All right.
That's
And then obviously on this one thing that's different we haven't seen in a while is the deluxe tank.
yeah. I
Which
was
just
about
to give
say.
you all a little bit of a, if you're not familiar with it, I'm sure most of you all are, but for those of you who aren't, the deluxe tank is that polished reveal on the side, and that is not chrome. That is actually the aluminum of the tank that's been polished, and then we powder coat over that, masking that off. So that's actually the aluminum of the tank showing through there.
It looks so good.
That's a Janus only feature there. There you go. Lovely bike.
All right. And then last and certainly not least is John with Halcyon 450 number 366 going to Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Now, let me just go ahead and do one of those. Now you guys can see it.
All right, there we go.
Going through the build
So
here.
this is a black chassis, at least so far we can tell. We can't tell if this is what the primary color is yet, if at all. But we do know that it has we got a lot of the oxblood red leather. Oh, look at that.
That's sharp.
So once again, we have a skirted fenders with double copper pinstripe. So this is kind of what we originally, the first versions we envisioned with the
yeah.
skirted fenders, same color with one or two pinstripes alternating with it.
Yeah, I love the creativity of everyone. It's so cool to see all the bikes in the shop because you can see everyone's different tastes. And some people get super, super creative.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
That's copper,
That's
right?
copper. Yep. So it's going to be copper all the way through. I don't know if we have one with the tank on it, but that's a great looking bike. Black.
Yeah. Look at that side
Look at
profile.
that. Number 366. I just love those fender skirts.
Yeah.
Brent knocked it out of the park with those. And he's got a two-headed logo on there. Look at that.
Wow.
Look at that, folks. And the oxblood leather with the copper black. There you go.
That's sharp.
Great job with the pictures, by the way, Jansen.
That is all. Hey, thank you. But that is all Mitch.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you,
100% Mitch. He did it. He did everything.
Great. I think Mitch is going to be taking on more of that role of supplying some of the pictures
Yeah,
for the builds of the week.
He's gonna take care of curating the list for us so that we can take a look at all the different and beautiful
That's
machines.
the brushed exhaust, by the way.
They
before
can't-
you shift
hey.
on.
They can't see it.
They can't see it.
No,
Okay.
no. All the beautiful machines that come out of the shop. Thank you, Mitch.
And it's obvious that we got more and more of a team effort here on the Ramblestream.
Yeah.
So we're leaning on more folks in the shop.
Yeah. Wow, looks awesome. Skirted with ducktail looks crazy cool. I absolutely agree.
Here's a good question. Confed Yank asks, curious question. If I get old Janus and it doesn't have a deluxe tank, can I get that changed? You can get that changed. However, we can't do it to your tank. You're going to have to get a new tank to get the deluxe finished, because that's a process that the actual way that we do it is that the raw tank goes to polish first, and our polishing guy polishes both the sides completely. Then we mask those off, and then it goes back. Then it goes out to powder coat after that, and then it comes back, and the mask is pulled off, and then Kelly goes over, or Brent goes over with the pinstripe. So it's not something that we can add to an existing basic tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Backwoods Metal Detectors asks, wondering if you could put a mud flap on the Griffin 450 to keep mud/dirt off of the engine.
That is a great question. And it's one that we've considered on all the models, is offering like a leather mud flap. I think it would be really
That would be
cool.
so cool, especially a leather one to match the. Woo!
Yeah, like rivet it onto the fender.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really neat. Yeah,
Hey, I might need to add an
Well,
accessory.
You could be our guinea pig. Keep them well oiled.
Yeah, for real. I couldn't imagine those being
Well,
able to.
They get some good patina.
Yeah, that's why you get it, right? There's no way if you get a Griffin 250 or Griffin 450, it probably looks better with dirt on it.
That's what I think so.
Because it's being ridden for its intended purpose, or at least one of them, at least.
Ride it as the maker intended, as they always say.
Yes. I wonder who the maker is. Now we're going to. Richard has a little thing for us.
Oh yeah,
tonight.
things of this world.
Things
section.
of this world. Richard, do you want to go ahead and show them?
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna give you all. I'll do my best so that you can actually see it. We're working on one of the things that maybe we'll do in the future is have another camera angle where we can. I think we mentioned that before, but this is called the Peasant Knife, and this is just a cool thing that I thought I'd feature tonight. This is made in New Zealand. It's a little company, I think founded in the 80s, that does really, really nice knives. They're not all like this. Some of them are fixed blade, really high-end knives. This is a very affordable knife. I think these go for like $25 or maybe less.
That's
I think when my brother gave me this one, but when he got it, I think it was like $18.
Wow.
Similar to another knife that we will feature, the Opinel, which is a really affordable, very good knife.
Yeah.
That's anyway. The cool thing about this knife, and I'll show you all the way that it works, is that it doesn't have any lock on it. It just has this really long tang, and the tang, it's locked by you holding it with your hand.
Huh.
So it's just like really interesting. It's based on we'll talk a little bit about the history in a minute, but it's based on a historic design, and it has a little hole up here, and so when you close it, you can also tie a lanyard to that or something like that.
Would you have to take the lanyard off though, or does it fit through that back?
It when it opens, it's still accessible.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
Pretty cool.
That is pretty
I don't know if
cool.
y'all can see that. We'll get better camera angles in the future. But anyway, it's beautiful knife. It's a carbon steel, European carbon steel, forged, really, really nice. This one is a plastic handle, and it's held together with 2 bolts.
It's getting pretty close to my face, Richard.
And you can adjust the tension on those, just like they're just screws.
Really?
I thought I'd just.
That's pretty cool.
It sounds kind of like us. This is like the Janus of knife making. So
I'm here for that.
we're gonna read this little because it's just too good not to. Hear ye! Great news for one and all. Peasant knives are back. Not just any old knife, but the B.W. Baker peasant knife. Such an old concept that it's new. So new that it's old. B.W. Baker, master cutler, felt that the idea of creating his latest knife range was calling him from the past. Using old-fashioned methods and relying on the oldest low-tech methods, Svord proudly presents their peasant knife. What does it do? Well, it cuts. Sure, there are knives around today that sprout scissors, saw blades, an entire motor mechanics toolkit, laser beams, and micro cell phones. Such knives have lost the very reason for their existence. That sounds kind of familiar, right? That's high tech for you. If you want a knife to cut things with, the Svord peasant knife is for you. If you've got style, you've got the class to be a first-rate peasant. Peasants are proud. Who actually did anything in history? Royalty? Nobility? Leaders? No way. We peasants carried the can for centuries. We also carried peasant knives too. The B.W. Baker peasant knife from the days when peasants had pockets but no money to fill them. Just the knife. So sorry, I'm going to keep on going with this, but it's too good. The B.W. Baker peasant knife is based on models used in Bohemia and Bavaria 300 to 400 years ago. It's easy to use, easy to carry, and to open. That's why it's awfully hard to put down. Hang it from your belt or whisk it from your pocket by its handy tang. Beautifully simple, but crafted by Svord from the finest steel, hardened and tempered to a secret formula. Plus, it has the classic Baker convex edge, the superior low-resistance cutting edge with the efficiency of a rocket's nose cone. All peasants know value when they see it. Beware imitations. There's not only one shape and size. Soon there will be a whole range available. Once you've enjoyed using your model, you'll want to start a collection that will grow in value years to come. But if you get rich, don't forget your peasant roots. So become a peasant and enjoy your peasant knife. Or buy a peasant knife as a pleasant present for another peasant.
Gosh,
Peasants come in all shapes. Anyway.
How are you reading that so well?
Anyway, I thought that one sentence is the good one. So anyway,
that's great.
There it is. That's the peasant knife. Check them out. They're made by Svord.
What do you mainly use this for? Does this live in a particular place, or?
To be perfectly honest, I have not used this knife yet. It's sat in I have like a kit that has kind of like a bunch of necessities, and I keep it in that. And I'm ashamed to say I haven't really used the knife yet. I haven't even sharpened it myself yet. So
wow, unbelievable.
Now we will get on to some other knives, maybe in future episodes.
I'm here for that.
I use regularly.
I'm here for that.
This one I will. I mean, it's kind of nice to just have it in the kit and know that you've got a pretty honking big blade.
And it's bright orange. Gary says, I carry a Buck Knives a Buck Knives 505 night folding lockback pocket knife. 1 7/8 inches, 420 HC blade. What is all that?
That's the alloy of the steel.
Okay. Did they send... Hydrochloride's asking, did they send that knife to you for free?
No, my brother bought it for me and gave it to me for my birthday.
Is this
a couple years
is this a peasant knife commercial that we're just?
It is a peasant knife commercial. I'm totally repping this, but we have no affiliation.
No affiliation at all. No, that's super cool. I like the tang here. Is an interesting, just even like sight wise, like when you look at it, it's kind of bizarre. It's like, what is that thing?
This is carbon steel. So like I love carbon steel, but it does mean it will rust.
Okay.
But it holds a mean edge.
But it's a
if
peasant
it's anything
knife.
like myopia, no.
Because if it rusts, you just buy a new one.
No, you clean it.
$18. Just
You're
buy a
missing the
new one. First sponsor, Grant says. Oh, we got a suggestion here from Semtech. Maybe you should show the Kelly kettle how to, or another look at the tool roll and what's included in yours. Would be cool, just saying.
Absolutely.
We can definitely do that. It looks like a chili pepper, Gary says. It kind of does, especially from the camera. It looks like a chili pepper. I don't know if you'd want to eat it. Probably not, but go for it.
You know, one of these days we should do I don't know. I'm really testing our technological limits, but we could actually have a Kelly kettle fire here. No, just kidding. Outside.
I mean, we could try to do it inside. We could.
No.
We don't have a smokestack.
We're in a paint booth.
We're
so we could
quite
turn on
literally in a rocket, so probably not the.
All right. Okay, let's get real here. Let's get serious.
Serious? This is a Ramblestream. We're rambling, baby.
All right. So that was things of this world. Next up, Jansen. Have you picked out any especially juicy comments?
I've got a
this
couple
week?
of juicy comments this week. I was telling Richard before the stream started, I almost didn't pick any, but
I said no. You've got to get some really mean ones.
I think these are just some that we can laugh at. We've got a comment on Facebook. It says, probably one of the strangest looking motorcycles ever built, and the Chinese engine takes it down another notch.
Oh, so strange is not a good thing.
No, strange feels like a bad thing. He says, but the video was well done. All right, sick.
All right.
That's great. And then another good one. I've only got 2 today, but there's a gentleman on Facebook that says, these are just bikes, not motorcycles.
You know, it's actually something I tell people when they're taking a test ride. We used to do a lot more Discovery Days. Speaking of, we'll have a Discovery Day coming up soon. We'll talk about that.
Sign up.
Sign up for it. You get a guy like a Harley rider or somebody who's used to a really big bike, and the first thing I want to tell them is, hey, this is not. Well, it goes back to this experience I had where this Harley rider. I mean, he had the whole like the regalia and everything, and he's on the Halcyon, and he pulled, and I was leading a ride, and he pulled over and stopped, and so of course I had stopped the ride, and I went back and said, yeah, what's going on? And he's like, there is something wrong with this motorcycle. And he was convinced that it was too nimble. It was too quick. It was too quick. And so I was like, well, how about this? We'll trade bikes. You ride my bike, which is working perfectly, and I'll ride yours, and we'll make sure. And of course, there was like nothing wrong with the motorcycle. So after that, I had to kind of to preface the experience of riding a Janus. Like, this is actually on a scale of bicycle to Harley Davidson. It's like pushing on the bicycle end of
we're
things.
definitely closer. Well, definitely like on the spectrum. Halcyon 250 much closer than
450
Harley
is
Street
harder to make that claim, but with especially it's hard-tailed, it's 265 pounds, like it's definitely more on that side.
Right.
So I mean, hey, he nailed it. Right?
Funfight says, listen, that was a selling point for me to explain to others. Super light in-town bike, which if you ride a Grom or a Z125 and they feel too small for you. Well, I don't know how people ride Groms. I mean, those things are like, those are children's bikes.
They're fun.
We have that little mini bike out here. That was pretty fun.
That one actually is too small for me, but what was there? Something there in that comment that I was going to...
You want to pull it back up here?
No. This one right here. Something about lightweight. I can't... Oh, I know what it was. I had the Ramble. We publish a Ramble. If you sign up for our email list, there's a series of emails about rambling.
Yeah.
and I get a lot of responses to those emails. I really enjoy reading them. Most of the time, they're just people that are really interested.
Right.
And this guy was basically, his question, he goes, I'm 6'5", and I would get one of your, the question is, I send out the email and it says, why aren't you buying a Janus? Well, give us a reason.
Give us one
And he's
reason.
like, well, the first reason is I'm 6'5" and I'm way too big for these, bikes. These are obviously not designed for somebody my height. And so I was like,
Did you send him a picture of you with a tape measure right next to your head?
It just so happened that it was the same day that we published the video on the 450 test ride last week. And the whole point of that, or the beginning of that video is we actually show me on the bike, how tall, what it's like with a 6'6". I had 1 inch on him.
Thank you.
Great. And then we show an average size Kyle.
An average size Kyle. Your everyday Kyle.
Everyday American male. And then we showed Kelly, who's 5'3", and different and she's like, she's able to put both feet down, but not flat foot the bike.
Right.
And so I sent him that video and I said, and by the way, I'm 6'6" and I designed the bike to be, and I feel less cramped on it than I do on my KLR 650. And then I'm not lying when I say that.
Your KLR is huge too.
But
KLR's
ergonomically, and mine has raised bars.
Yeah.
It is still, I feel more cramped on that bike than I do on a Halcyon.
That's
250.
That's crazy.
So anyway, there's a good answer to that one.
Neil says, remake the Halcyon 50.
Neil Carson.
Who is Neil, Richard?
Neil sits right over there. He's just razzing us.
He's not sitting there currently, but he does sit over there.
It would be fun to make the 50 ever again.
That would be a fun little test.
2-speed twist and go.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
I love my Road King. It's a fantastic touring bike, but riding in the mountains does wear you down. I could only imagine. Yeah, talking about like the comparisons from the Halcyon 250 to
the 450,
the like a street glider or
a
Harley.
Big Harley, yeah.
Like we're going to be talking a little bit today, or rambling about like big bike lie. But before we do that, we've got a special message.
Oh yeah,
from our sponsor, Janus Motorcycles.
Oh yeah. What's that message?
I thought I was relying on you to have that message returned.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's springtime. It's springtime here in Indiana, and we hope in your neck of the woods. And it's time to, if you haven't already, get your bike out. So we recommend, we have some videos on de-winterizing, springifying, summerating your Janus. And one of the things that I recommend, it's actually in the back of the Rambler's Companion, a little inspection list. And we're not going to talk too much about going into all the details on all this, but do I have my Rambler's Companion here? Yes, I do. The list that I based this on, and the list that we base, if you go on your owner's handbook, if you have a Janus, it's based on the MSF, Motorcycle Safety Foundation's T-clocks, which is an abbreviation for like throttle controls. I can't remember all the different things, but anyway,
the wrong person, Richard.
It goes through, and you can look it up on MSF, their website. But and just incidentally, I had to mention this, that there's an image of a motorcycle in the background with a little like inspection list, and it's definitely a KLR 650.
It's definitely a KLR.
But if you'd like to see more content on spring preparation for your bike, inspection, getting it ready for the summer, we have some videos on that already, and we can make more.
Yeah.
But the basic idea is, for me, if I haven't left the bike sit all year, which is I never really do. But even if you did, the first thing would be, for me, even if I haven't ridden the bike, the length of that it takes to get to an oil change, I like to change the oil every year. The oil does get old. It's not just how many miles are on it. And you don't necessarily have to do a valve adjustment or valve check first of all, if the bike is well broken in, if you've got a couple of thousand miles on it, it isn't going to need it unless you've been riding it all year, all the last year. And the spring is a great time to do that. If you have been riding it all year, you probably do need a valve adjustment. And it's amazing if you do an oil change and a valve adjustment, the bike will feel like it's just brand new. It really, you'll notice the difference.
Yeah.
And I like to, of course, the basics: air up the tires, lubricate your cables. That's one thing
that's a forgotten.
That is a forgotten maintenance task.
Yeah, big time.
And I am a victim of this, where I'll be riding it around, and then I'll take out my bike around, and
It's like you got
and then
sand.
I go ride a new bike, like a test ride a bike. I'm like, wow,
this is
amazing.
crazy.
And so a little bit of, you can just use WD-40 or not WD-40, 3-in-1 oil.
Yeah.
3-in-1 oil down your cables. In order to do that, I always don't try and bend the cable to get in there, because you can damage it. Take it apart, take it off the clutch, hold it up with a rag around it, and just, I like to kind of douse it in oil and let the oil go down the cable. Super simple. And unless the bike has been sitting for a long time and you haven't treated the gas, those are the basic maintenance things.
Right.
Obviously, you want to do a visual inspection of everything, make sure your lights are working and everything like that. But that's just some simple spring maintenance tips.
Yeah, something else that I liked to do was just keep my battery on a tender. That always helps come springtime.
Too late for that now for folks if they haven't done it
too late
already.
for that now, but just in advance, keep your battery on a tender. And I even during the winter, I don't know if it was because I was like thinking ahead to spring riding, or if it was because I was very conscious about making sure my motorcycle is taken care of. I would just start it and let it run for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Just
during the winter.
Yeah, during the winter, just to
don't do it for 5 minutes. That's what I always tell people. If you're gonna warm up your bike, you should warm it up for a while.
Really?
Warm enough so that the oil gets above boiling temperature.
Okay.
Because what happens is, if you just start the bike for like a minute or 5 minutes, it doesn't reach temperature, and it actually condenses liquid water inside the engine, which can rust things.
Don't do what I just said. Do it.
So if you do warm it up for, I would say go for a little spin.
Long
so
time.
that it's up to, just so that the oil gets to operating temperature, which is above boiling temperature of water, and then it'll burn off any, steam off the water.
Yeah.
And then treat your gas before you put it. Another one that's too late now if you haven't already done it.
Sorry.
Your carburetor's clogged. But anyway, the last thing, but this is a comment. We got time. This is a comment that came in. We ask if you have any questions, more detailed questions or comments, send us an email. You can send that at rambling@janusmotorcycles.com, and I get them all. I answer all the emails that come to that email, or my regular email address. But send us an email, and we'll do exactly what I'm going to do right now. So this is from Randall, and he had some great comments on the Ramblestream on how we could improve it, which were very positive.
I love seeing emails like this. It makes me super happy that you guys care enough to send something. So if it's little or small, or little or big, send in your recommendations, what you would like to see, even topics that you'd like to hear about. We'd love to accommodate.
He says it might be worthwhile modifying the seating and layout a bit. It looks like Richard and Jansen are packed into a Cessna 150 cabin, and they have a crane over their necks.
It's a little bigger than that, I will say.
We're working on that part. But he says, there was a comment last week about the exhaust vibration on the 450 and some design updates regarding that. I'm curious for more details. In the Janus forum, there have been comments about the exhaust heat. I am definitely new to the moto world, but I have seen some bikes with cooling fins on the exhaust header area, and I see that these are available. Does the designer have any thoughts on that as an owner modification? Just a point of curiosity for me. So first off, vibration. On your Halcyon exhaust, they do vibrate. The 450 the exhaust vibration is something we did not anticipate. And we are working on a fix for that, which will be available to existing owners, and it's not hard to install. We have more on that. Neil, who's in the chat, has been working on it. Do not hound Danielle about this, because I will hear about it, but we will be getting this out soon. And it's basically a vibration damping system for the exhaust mounts. Cool. And then on terms of heat, that really I don't think is an issue. So he asks about exhaust heat, and I have not seen or heard comments on excessive heat from our exhaust, and I wouldn't expect them to really be there.
What would be a sign, other than the excessive heat? What would be a sign that your exhaust is having some issues of excessive heat?
Well, I'm not. We never really had that. Now, one thing that you might notice is at night, if your bike is idling, you can see the exhaust get hot. you can actually, it'll get cherry red.
It's pretty cool.
And the first time that happened to me,
Pretty cool.
kind of freaked me out. But the reason that you're maybe not familiar with that on other bikes is that a lot of other motorcycles use a double-walled exhaust. So they have an interior wall and an exterior wall, and that insulates it. That's why our exhausts get that wonderful coloration as well.
Yeah.
Because it's a single-wall exhaust, and that's why you can see it get really hot. That's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
That it gets cherry red when you're. You'll only notice this at night. But as far as heat, the only time I am heard of heat issues with the exhaust is on Griffins, where it's up next to your leg.
Yeah.
And it can get a little warmer on those bikes. That's what the heat shield's for. That's kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to a scrambler.
Right.
And so we go to great lengths to provide protection for your leg. But
Interesting.
that is part of the scrambler.
It's part of the.
So
part of the
Randall, I hope that answered your questions. If it didn't, send me another email. Comment,
another one.
because maybe he's on the
That'd be cool.
stream.
Uncle Voodoo says, even though the initial price is similar, he's talking about a Royal Enfield 650 that he also has. 5 years down the road, the Janus held its value way better. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty cool.
That's
I mean,
great.
I guess that's what happens when you make a motorcycle in America.
Okay. Racing the Sun. They say love your videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't checked out Uncle Voodoo's YouTube videos, he's got some great ones. So please check them out. Okay.
Hydro
Well,
says you should expect to look hot on a Janus. Ain't that the truth?
all right. Okay. Why don't we do a little rambling?
The big bike lie.
Yeah. The big bike lie. What is the big bike lie?
We are sold this idea, and this is coming from who was sold the idea, that you need just as much horsepower or even just CCs in general as possible in order to have fun on a motorcycle.
You need to have like power to weight ratio, like triple most cars.
Through 9,000. Just you gotta get on the street. Ferrari, beat them in a line race. Lamborghini, beat them. Everybody on the road. No one's safe.
But yeah, I think that it has. This is something that we have been over the last. It hasn't always been the case. Over the last 60 years, it's kind of gotten a little bit more and more out of control.
Yeah.
To the point where I always laugh when people talk about. No, not even 650s, but they talk about anything less than 1,000 cc.
Yeah, I've seen a couple comments that are talking about like 1,000 to 1,200 cc's, and I'm like, oh,
That's like a beginner bike.
that's crazy.
Or less than that is a beginner bike.
Right, that's crazy. That's crazy. That'll rip your face off. Like it's insane. That's a major
The
hazard.
caveat there is that, and like we talk about in the Rambler's Companion, there's so many different kinds of motorcycles out there. There are big cruisers. There are European sport bikes, Japanese sport bikes. Then there's different kinds. There's retro motorcycles. Yep. There's all these different types of motorcycles and different kinds of riding, and it's great.
Yeah.
You have a lot of options.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had the opportunity to ride 100 horsepower or more motorcycle, maybe you're missing out on something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. I had the biggest bike I've ever owned was a Kawasaki Concourse. I had a 1991 Concourse in black with red pinstripe, which they say is the fastest color scheme of the Kawasaki Concourse.
Wow.
Now the Kawasaki Concourse is not a sport bike, but it thinks it is, even though it's a sport touring bike.
Yeah, sport touring.
It's 100 horsepower.
That just means you go from here to here. That's all the sport touring means. Everything below your waist is the exact same.
Well, it's pretty aggressive. And that thing, when you twisted the throttle on that thing, I mean, you could get up to 90 miles an hour in third gear.
That's absolutely terrifying.
It was a lot of fun.
But
it was also really heavy. It was a 600-pound, not even really heavy. That's not even that heavy in the world of most motorcycles on the road today.
Right.
But that is a bike that if it fell over, I would need to really think about how I was going to pick it up. And it would crush all the plastics on it, like destroy all the 1991 vintage lovely black and red plastic on it.
That's probably already a little like crumbly in the first place.
Yeah. Well, mine was in pretty good shape, but it's a lot of fun, and there are applications where it's perfectly like I think it's great. especially if you want to get like a Ducati Panigale V4.
Gosh,
you know, like
those
but
are, talk about another beautiful bike.
I delivered one of our 250s to a great customer up in New England, and he has several bikes, and one of them is a basically race-ready tuned Panigale, and he's like, I can do about 20 miles on this thing before my wrists are just like completely dying on my back. He's like, this is not a motorcycle that you can ride anywhere.
Yeah,
It's a very specific purpose.
This is strictly for the track.
I mean, that one really is for the track.
Right.
And, but a lot of bikes like that there really are, people could say that a Janus is sort of like one of the comments, and you should find some.
Yeah, I can definitely dig some.
Like this is like a hipster bike. This is goes down to get your man bun and go get a coffee at the person. It's good for nothing. Well, what are people doing on their Panigale? Like, it's just about as like ridiculous that the amount of actual practical riding you can do on it.
Right.
Whereas some other bikes, like a Royal Enfield or a Janus or a Triumph Bonneville, like they're really much more practical.
Big time.
Bikes. Now, you know me and being practical; those two don't really go together. But if you want to get a bike that you can get the most out of, something that you can like what we just featured we just launched the video, that same one I was talking about earlier about the 450 test ride. And one of the things I was talking about while I was riding the bike, we had a mic in my helmet, was just how much fun it is to downshift on a 450. Or, I mean, really, honestly, I like it more on the 250.
The 250 is kind of fun too.
For that kind of like shifting up and shifting down through the gears, like you have to basically get into fifth gear on most roads.
Right.
Whereas with the Concourse or obviously a Ducati or many other bikes, you're not going through all the gears.
Yeah.
And so I get away with being able to use the entire gearbox.
You get to use your entire motorcycle.
Yep.
Every last ounce of it is yours.
Mm-hmm.
You paid for it. You might as well use it, Richard.
Yeah. So that to me is what I really, really love. Probably the most about motorcycles is probably downshifting.
Yeah. Downshifting and like rev matching, the whole process just feels so
satisfying.
good.
Because you're never quite there. Like, you're always trying to get better at it.
Right.
You're always trying to get a little better. And the next time you go for that corner on a Halcyon, you're trying to get a little bit more. And you're not, obviously, it's not a race machine, but you can corner.
Right.
And you're going like 35 miles an hour, so it's like not the end of the world.
But it's like stupid fun.
It's really, really fun.
I don't know what it is, and I haven't really been able to articulate the feeling of riding. I remember going to it was a couple years ago. We went on like a Janus staff outing, and we went to go get ice cream, and we were all just like ripping around. We went on a group ride and ripping around, and I've never had more fun on a ride than what I did. And it could have been like a mixture of everyone was there, we're all riding motorcycles, like it was a lot of fun. But I'm pretty sure it's because I was riding a Phoenix 250.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I really appreciate dual sports too.
Yeah.
Because they get to that. Like, maybe they definitely don't look as good as a Janus. Mm-hmm. As much as I love my KLR, it's never won any beauty pageants.
It kind of reminds me of a dinosaur. Not like it's because it's old, just because it's like big and clunky.
Yeah. But it is a motorcycle that you can use and it's totally in this rambling category. Like, I think in this, I talk about less than 50 horsepower, I don't know what the weight, under 500 pounds, a bike that you're going through all the gears and you're just enjoying, and you're able to use it for all kinds of riding.
Yeah.
And that's something that maybe the 250 isn't good for hopping on the interstate. I mean, you can, but it's not like in its element. But let's get back a little bit to the big bike live.
Yeah, real quick.
Before
we do that, Multifarious asked a question. Was the handling of the Phoenix much different than the Halcyon and the Griffin?
Yes. Well, you talk about it, Jansen. I know it well.
Yeah, I don't have as much experience riding all the models that Richard does, but I've ridden my fair share of all three of them. And it's crazy to me what the seating position and handlebar position alone changes. I know that there's a little, I might not know this, there's a little bit of a rake difference between the Halcyon 450 and the Griffin and Phoenix, right?
Yeah, the Griffin and Phoenix have a steeper rig.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, besides that, if I were to compare the Griffin and the Phoenix alone, the 250s alone, riding them feels like a completely different motorcycle. Even though they share a lot of similarities, the riding position makes it feel like you're going faster because your head's lower, and then when you're cornering, you feel like you feel like you're about to drag knee or something on the Phoenix. So that's a long answer to your question, but yes.
Grant describes it like riding a bottle rocket, which I think is a really good description because you're so far forward over the tank. And the weight distribution is very different than the Halcyon and than the Griffin, for that matter.
Yeah,
that all you really see is you have your instrument, and maybe you see the front fender and the top of the headlight, but everything else is kind of behind you. Whereas on the Halcyon, you're kind of more sitting back and you can see the whole bike.
Right.
And so it's more of a kind of, I don't know, I want to say like it's more a little bit more passive. If that can even be said of a Janus.
Well, because
the Phoenix is like you're like
in it.
You're like your head is going it's almost first.
You are practically. I mean, you're laying down on the tank.
Yeah,
pretty much. The weight distribution, Mark says, makes the front forks work better on the Phoenix 250 as well.
Yeah, yeah. The handling between the Griffin and the Phoenix was very, very different.
Even says, I noticed that when I flipped the bars on my Halcyon 250.
Yeah, because he was like down further over the tank.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but I thought that was an interesting question.
Yeah.
Going into the big bike live, though, Richard.
Yeah. But I mean, just continuing what we were saying, that there are a lot of these other options, and we should all, as motorcyclists, they're all good.
Yeah.
I mean, a big Harley is a really fun bike to ride.
Yeah.
A Ducati. I don't think I've ever ridden a Ducati. I've ridden a lot of bikes. I don't think I've ridden a Ducati, so I'm missing that one. But I've ridden a lot of sport bikes.
Yeah.
And they're a lot of fun.
They're a ton of fun.
But what I think with the big bike lie is that it's this idea both from journalists and from the industry, from the OEMs, that it is a lie in the sense that it says this is what you need. If you have to have this in order to even get the experience.
Yeah.
And that all the smaller bikes are stepping stones
to
get to this bigger bike, which is what everybody is going to want to have.
Right.
And I do think that is an absolute untruth, because if you look at most of the greatest motorcycles of all time, even the racing motorcycles, they were 350s, 500s. And of course, obviously, American bikes have always been bigger, but they weren't necessarily very powerful.
Right. They might have been a little torquier.
Maybe, yeah. An old Harley, they've been making 1,000 cc motorcycles for a long time, but they weren't necessarily. I was just reading about the history of the WLA Harley, World War II Harleys. They were putting out like less than 30 horsepower. Now they were also over 500 pounds.
Right. Tractors.
So they were really actually quite slow by modern standards.
Yeah. I think going into the bike lie a little more, like we've somehow associated power or like horsepower or CC to value.
Yeah. That's another great point.
When in reality, like you can have, it's different fun, right? Like my XSR 900 compared to a Phoenix 250, like they're both extremely fun motorcycles. Completely different fun.
But where do you measure fun, or what is the value you get from a motorcycle? I think that's the question we're asking, is like, how should you value it?
Yeah. I don't know.
I'll tell you that what the industry
person.
tells you is that the more technological features on it, which makes sense. You got more gauges, you got more wiring, you got more, more electrical stuff going on, more bits and pieces.
Right.
That's more value.
Yeah.
So the more tech it has, the more valuable it is.
Yeah.
The faster it is, the more valuable it is. The heavier it is, the more valuable it is.
Because, I mean, when you pick up...
Well, why though?
Well, okay. I'm going to push back a little bit on that. I don't know if anyone in here likes mechanical keyboards. Okay. So there's a subculture, a subgenre, if you will, of mechanical keyboards where, kind of like motorcycles, people collect lots of them. People ask, why do you need multiple keyboards? You can get a whole bunch of different keyboards made out of different materials. And oftentimes, a sign of value is the weight that each keyboard has. because it's an identifier of different materials being used that create that weight.
Are you talking about feel though? You're talking about feel.
No, I'm talking about you pick it up off the table and you go, oh.
So that's actually what gives it value?
That's a nice keyboard.
But what about the actual experience of using it?
It does affect as well the typing experience. Not
Are the keys
as much.
heavier?
Keys aren't heavier. The weight of the key. I'll have to bring some into you, Richard, one time and show you. But the weight of them signifies value because you can tell that someone said, I want this to feel good in every way you use it.
But isn't there also an aspect to that where it isn't made out of plastic?
That's true.
So the weight is signifying quality in the sense that this is made out of good materials.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well,
it's an identifier of good material. So
that doesn't really hold true of a Janus though, because they're lightweight, but they're all made out of steel and aluminum and leather.
But that is the heaviest version. This might sound crazy, but like a Halcyon 250 is the heaviest version of itself that anyone can make. If Kawasaki were to make a Halcyon 250, it wouldn't be as heavy as
because we've actually
Janus Halcyon 250.
We've made no real. That's the funniest thing is our bikes are so lightweight, but we have made no attempt to use lightweight materials.
None.
It's just that we don't have as much stuff on it.
Right.
That's interesting.
And so I would assume that if Kawasaki were to make a Janus Halcyon clone,
they could use all kinds of state-of-the-art materials.
It would be lighter.
Carbon fiber.
It would be lighter.
Chassis.
Yep.
Yeah. And they probably are the little race bikes, the 125s and bigger. Yeah.
That's a big side tangent.
No, that's an interesting point though. But I think it's interesting that where we're going with it is just that like weight, technical features, speed, that those we have been so acclimatized to those being a sign of value that we've forgotten. And this is going back to what you all probably know this speech by heart by now, that the reason we ride is not because we want to go 200 miles an hour.
Right.
Now, some people may want to set speed records. That's great.
Right.
But like the reason that most people, at least that I know, that we ride together and we have fun, or the people that I meet ride because they enjoy the experience of riding in their daily lives as regularly as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, and so if the big bike lie, the answer to that lie, the truth I would say is that it's not these factors like weight, speed, and technological features. It's what is a motorcycle that delivers the best sensation of riding.
Right. The best experience of riding.
This is what the Ramblers Companion is about.
Like, to its core, like what is riding a motorcycle and what is the best way to do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And oftentimes it's using every single ounce of your motorcycle.
Right. Yeah. And it's being able to use it as much as you
can.
Can, or not. But I think that's what bugs us about that and why we call it a lie is that we are not that there's anything wrong with big bikes,
right? But
that you're taught that we all are, that this is what you have to have.
Yeah.
And and that's what we're basically trying at Janus, which we're calling baloney on that.
Yeah.
That absolutely not. Look at the whole, like, for me, I think and we've talked about this with retro before and with in many other areas, including the Ramblers Companion, but the idea that motorcycles are sort of are timeless in the sense that they distill this experience that is pretty timeless.
Yeah.
And I think we can find this in a lot of different activities, whether it's any kind of rambling activities like we talk about, like walking or mountaineering or sailing or driving a car that's really thrilling, or all these different sensations. Riding a horse would probably count as that.
More terrified to ride. I've ridden horses. I'm more scared to ride horses than I am motorcycles. I don't know what that means, but I'm just saying.
But I think that the motorcycle industry ran out of being, they couldn't, the marketing strategy couldn't handle explaining that to people anymore. And so they just threw more and more features and speed and power at the question. And by about 2000, you had I think the peak of that, which is a great bike. I rode one the first time I rode one, brand new one out in Sturgis this year, Suzuki Hayabusa. Came out in 1999, I believe. Right? It's right. This was the moment. And the Hayabusa its whole purpose was to be the fastest motorcycle in the world, and it was for a while. And but it basically, at that point, I think everybody realized, like, we can't do this anymore. We can't go any further,
any faster.
I mean, you can, but you're literally, you need to be at Bonneville to be able to actually hit the speed. I mean, even at 200 miles an hour, I mean, you can't do that without no care for your existence.
Right.
So, and I think that journalists around this time also started realizing that there was nothing else they could write about. It just reached a point of it was no longer meaningful.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why around that time the Triumph Bonneville takes off as like, hey guys, hold on. And that's why I think the Bonneville is not a retro motorcycle. I really think that it's not just a return to some kind of vintage or nostalgia.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a return to riding.
It's an answer too.
Yeah. It's like, hey, we're going to go back to this old bike, but that's the only way you can to recover what it really means to ride.
Right.
And I think that the Bonneville was really one of the first bikes. I think the other one that's really before its time was the Honda, I'm going to forget the name of the bike. The GB500, the early retro bike, 1998.
Okay.
No, maybe it was even earlier than that. But basically, it's the same motor that's in our 450.
Nice.
But they were recovering. It was an attempt at a different answer to why riding was important and why people should do it. And I think that the reason that the nostalgia and the beauty and the heritage of the Bonneville made sense is that people actually consciously connected going back to this before bikes were like this.
Right.
That to find the real value in motorcycles. And I'm not trying to make an ad here for the Triumph Bonneville at all, but I do think that it really is an emblem of this first return to really understanding what motorcycling is all about. And that Bonneville is a big, heavy bike.
Right.
But it gets toward that. And what we're trying to do is really go a step further and say, guess what? If you really want to understand what riding is about, let's pare this down to the bare minimum.
Right.
To the real essence without all the other distractions. Yeah. And I don't think it's going to be for everybody. Obviously, it's not for everybody. We've only built,
but that's not the point. Like, we're not trying to build a motorcycle for everybody, right? Like,
although I think everybody would probably enjoy it if they had one.
I think that people don't understand that they have a problem until they ride a Halcyon or a Griffin.
Well, they've been sold a lie.
Right, exactly. So it's like, at what point is there a coming back? So like, we had the Triumph Bonneville moment, right, where we came back to what riding is. Now, what happens, and when does that happen at scale? I wonder.
I think we're seeing it right now. I think we're looking at the comments here. Mark's on. He says, I agree with Richard. He had 3 of the Hinckley Triumphs. But Confed says Kawasaki just dropped a W250. I think we're seeing the massive growth in a fairly difficult motorcycle market. Power sports are not having a great decade. Mm-hmm. Royal Enfield is doing really, really well. And they're coming out with these lines of smaller bikes.
Right.
Now they're going more to the 650, but that's still in the modern world. That's a small bike.
Yeah. KTM declared bankruptcy.
They're not doing well. And they had some smaller bikes.
Right.
But all the big brands, I think, are starting to recognize this.
Right.
And I think it's a good thing for riders.
Well, you look at overseas especially, where there are specific like laws that if you're a new rider, like, you can't ride a motorcycle over a certain amount of cc's,
tiered
amount of horsepower. And I've heard the comment a lot of like, oh, you need this much power in order to get out of dangerous situations.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Which is an interesting take, because I saw Mark comment a few minutes ago about, like, he thinks that like our Halcyon 250 is one of the safest motorcycles, just
Yeah.
because of the inability to like lose control.
Mm-hmm.
Or he didn't say the inability to lose control. I added that.
You can get in trouble on any motorcycle.
Right.
But it is a bike that you can. What I talk about is like the zone riding. You know, like rambling is about finding the zone.
Right.
Where it's like it's you can push yourself to a new limit, and you can give yourself a little scare.
Yeah.
But it's also you're within a level of control that you're not like distracted. You're neither distracted by boredom or by fear.
Yeah.
That's the zone. And what I think that a good motorcycle, a rambling motorcycle provides is a zone where you're able to be in that zone most of the time.
Big time.
And so if you're like, I think anyone would admit that a big, powerful bike, like any modern sport bike really, the reason you see people ripping around on them is that they're boring
Right.
at the speed limit.
Right. Because in the back of your head, you know.
Yeah, because the bike feels.
I could go so much faster than this.
And it's designed to do that.
Right.
And so it can inspire a false confidence. I
Yeah,
think maybe that's
big
what
time.
Mark's talking about a little bit, is that the zone where you're in this, where you're testing your limits, like I'm talking about when you're downshifting or cornering.
Yeah.
You're going like well within the speed limit.
Yeah.
Typically.
Right.
And so you can that's what rambling is about to me, is testing those limits both ways, where you can always, you're downshifting, you're always refining your riding, and it's a lot of fun. And that is safer, because not that we're riding motorcycles to be safe.
Right.
Right.
It is a dangerous thing.
But if you do it every single day, what do they say? It's not if, but when you have some kind of accident, they happen, you're not going 85 miles an hour when it happens.
Right.
And so, and if you ride a lot, that is something that, maybe worth considering. A rambler is prepared for all contingencies, whether it's going down or not.
Yeah. Dress for the slide, right? Not the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Let's we're out of time. We've been out of time for 7 minutes. I'm happy to keep going, but we can read some comments here. Even at a fast stop, the Janus front end will hardly dip. Huh?
Yeah.
Does that sound like anti-dive to you, Richard?
Sounds like leading link suspension.
That's what that sounds like. Mark says, I think that Halcyon 450 is an outstanding handling bike. Corners much better than a standard should.
Yeah. What he means that is a standard motorcycle, so not a sport bike or a big cruiser.
Gary says Harley Davidson builds the X500 in India, but the thing weighs 458 pounds.
500-pound 500.
Holy smokes! What is the power to weight ratio on our 250s? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't know what it is off the top of it. I do know that the 450's power to weight ratio is within 1 or 2 percentage points of a Sportster.
That's crazy.
Yep. No, that's the 883, not the new 1200.
Right.
But the Sportster is like, synonymous with American motorcycle.
Right. Right. Someone have a Sportster here?
Jack has one.
Jack.
He has a new 1200 though.
Okay, it's a 1200.
I've ridden that thing. That thing. Whew,
It
lose the rear wheel on that thing real easy.
It's a nice looking motorcycle.
And it's got some oomph too.
Will not tolerate this anti-divers propaganda. Sarcasm.
Right.
We were asked to make a note about.
Yes, we were. Yeah.
Trade-ins.
A little trade-ins.
This part of the Ramblestream has been brought to you by Janus Motorcycles.
Grant Longenbaugh in particular, our marketing whiz. We've gotten actually a lot of trade-in inquiries over the weekend. And since we've launched this, we're taking trade-in, what do we call it? Offers. So we basically, you can go through us. We have deals with a number of different motorcycle trade-in companies, and then we can give you an estimate on a trade-in for a Janus motorcycle.
Yeah. So if you have a Sportster that you just want to get rid of, you
or
can trade it in, or a Triumph Vaudeville,
or Royal Enfield,
a 650 in particular.
Yeah, one of those bikes.
You just trade it in.
You're tired of it?
Sponsored stream, he said. Yep, it's a sponsored stream.
Yeah, if you wanna experience distilled motorcycle riding and rid yourself of the big bike lie, trade in your big
Bulky
lie and get a Janus.
Get a Janus.
There we go.
You won't regret it. Well, that's all we've got.
That's all we got.
This has been fun, Richard.
That's been a fun ramble stream. Thank you very much. And we will see you back next week, same time, same place, for Ramble Stream 76.
We'll see you then.
See you then. Bye-bye.